Welcome to our next exit interview. Boy, am I excited. He's now on the opposite side here. Robbie has been with our first two seasons. He did some exit interviews and recaps with us, but now we are here to talk to him about his game. And as always, I'm joined with Lilly.
Hello.
Yeah, Robbie, welcome to the other side of things.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I didn't have to prepare anything. I just showed up. So it's a lot easier. I just had to turn the lights on and sit down. And
Yeah.
That's it.
Always the best feeling. Well, to get into your game, so you were an alternate for this game and you let that be known. And my first question is why? Why let them know?
Well, I've watched a couple of these and, it's funny because based on who you talk to or depending on who you talk to, sometimes people think I have a ton of experience playing these things. I don't actually have a ton of experience. I played one long game and I did play one mini before this mini, but there was no confessionals. It wasn't structured the same. It was much less of an outing, I suppose.
Also unaired.
Also unaired, exactly. Yes,
a big difference.
A huge difference. But somehow I guess people think I have experience because I spoke about a lot of these seasons. I've done a lot of breakdowns.
You're just in this community, so
exactly.
For me, I always think that you're just this big bet, and it's like I've actually done like 2 games, 1.5.
Yeah. Now the thing is too is I'm really passionate about it, right? So like a lot of the Survivor fans out there, reality TV fans, I rewatch seasons. I wonder why. I look for body language and I study the game and I try to understand people's motivations and what leads them to make the moves. And one of the things I wanted to get out of the way immediately was that I didn't have any preconceived notions coming into the game, because by saying, hey, I was literally napping, which is a fact. I was laying on my couch. It was nap time. My kids were sleeping. It was just after lunch, like in my time on the East Coast. And my wife was actually outside painting the deck and my phone buzzed and it woke me up. So I took a look at it and it was, some folks asking me to play. And I was just like, well, give me a second. And I ran up and I asked my wife, I was like, hey, can I play? Like, are you cool with watching the kids for hopefully the next 12 hours? And you know what? And she kind of laughed it off and said, go have fun. And that was really the motivation I had, was just to have fun. And so I immediately jumped on, and I'm not kidding. I think I had 15 minutes maybe of booting the computer up as fast as I could.
It was very fast. And speaking of your wife, Serena, she actually also played with us. She had the experience. So, I mean, if she said no, you let her have the day.
Well, listen, if to be fair here, I'm not trying to throw any shade. You never know what, I'm one of those stereotypical husbands that I might not know the plans for the day. We might have like a dentist appointment and a trip, I don't know, to see the in-laws or something. So I don't know. I just kind of go with the flow. So anyways, once I got the go ahead, yeah, I was all in, having fun. And I just let people know, like, I'm here to have fun. I don't have any plans. Bring me into whatever you want to do.
And that's kind of my favorite type of game, is just like, I'm here, let's go.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you see that in my approach really to the entire season. It was, I wanted to have fun. And that was my main motivation, was have fun. Maybe I'll be entertaining. Maybe some funny quotes will come out. Who knows? And just kind of go to town and see what happens.
Yeah. There was one episode where like, oh crap, I need to find an episode title. I clicked on a Robbie confessional and I was just like, all right, there it is.
Well, it's one of the benefits you get from watching a few seasons and countless seasons of Survivor, is you can kind of picture when you go into a confessional, you're not talking to whoever's asking you the question, you're not talking to your camera, you're talking to whoever's watching that episode. And it really makes it a lot easier to talk, because you can just say, here's how I'm visioning the entire season right now. I think I'm in this position. I think they're in that position. Here's who I think is running the game. And then when you watch it back, it looks really introspective. Like you're really focusing on that moment. But it almost becomes easier when you stop trying to think and you just talk about how you feel. And it's much more authentic. And I don't know, I enjoyed it.
And I think some of the best confessionals are people that realize like it's not just for the production, like it's for people watching it, and you want the zingers in there, and you want the like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having fun, right? Because those people end up being who people are rooting for. So I think you definitely gave some of that, which
like
is
if I was this person, I would be voting for me, but I hope they're not. Here's what I'm doing.
And even with your final episode, I left in a bunch of your confessionals being like, oh yeah, I know I'm screwed here. Like there's no way I'm not, because like I loved your just knowledge of where you stood in the game and like where everybody else saw you. So I kind of like, it was kind of obvious that you were the one going that episode, but it was too good not to include.
Well, I appreciated seeing it there because it wasn't until I was probably 2 episodes in to this season watching it back when I was like, oh crap, all I said on my whatever that 45-minute window where I knew I was going, right? So that week, all I said that week was, you know, I'm gone. And I really didn't give a lot of advice or feedback as to how I knew I was going and how I was so confident. I was just like, you know what? A lot of it at that point was, what were we, like 6 hours in, probably 7, like, because I don't know how many votes have gone by. This is six votes. And the first vote usually takes about 2 hours to get through because of setup and all that stuff. And
well, we didn't even start until later because we grabbed you. We try to have everybody start at 11, but it started at 11:30 because of people timing and all that. And we started at 11:30. We did the intro and everything. I don't think we started with the first immunity challenge until 12.
Yeah, it was. So I mean, we're probably, you know, like I said, about 7 hours in, if this is the 6th boot, give or take 6 or 7 hours. And at that point, you just from body language and the relationships you've already built in this pace of a game, you see the writing on the wall pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or you don't, and then you're blindsided.
Yeah, that is true. And we'll get to your vote out, but when you first get on screen and you're getting to know your tribe, is there anyone that you were really jiving with? We see a lot of talk of you don't want to vote out any of the women, but was there any of them in particular you were interested in working with?
You know what? It's kind of funny because there was a lot of combinations of motivations there. When I said I didn't want to vote at any of the women, it's also true because when I come in and I see that the numbers aren't balanced, that's an unfortunate reality of a lot of these online games right now, is a lot of times you just don't get the applicants. You don't have the pool to pick from. And it's not a production choice to say, okay, we're going to have, 5 women and 7 men or whatever. It's just the reality of the casting world right now. And that was half of my motivation was just the actual reason. But another part of it was I was getting no signs or signals at all from the guys that were there. And, Dan and John were just kind of, I don't know. Honestly, it was either some like people who played a whole bunch or people who have never played before. And I couldn't tell the difference. And I'm like, well, the women are talking and I can get information from people who talk. And if you're going to talk to me, I want to work with you because then I can get information. And obviously there's the Alanis connection there, if you want to say that too, I suppose. A bit of a benefit where I played with Alanis's father in the one and only long game I played like 2 years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago now.
I think so. It was right at the summer of 2020.
Yeah, it was. And so I don't think I ever spoke with Alanis, but when I saw her there, I recognized her. And I was like, okay, that could be a really good thing or a really bad thing. Mm-hmm. And, I just flipped a coin and tried to make the all girls alliance.
Yeah. And, as Robbie was a very last minute addition, we just replaced him with the slot where the person had dropped. Otherwise, obviously, you would have started on separate tribes, but that also didn't play too much into the final.
I think the only time I actually got to sit with Alanis was towards the end of my
that
reign.
One-on-one that you had.
I think that was probably the only time. I mean, maybe I'm missing one, but because really my number one was Maddie.
Yeah.
And I know we'll probably touch on that in a second, I'm assuming, but Maddie was the one I wanted to work with 100%, because I think if I had to vote, I haven't been shy about this at all. If you had to vote for the most underrated and well-rounded player of the season, just from the people I've interacted with and watched on the show, Maddie is by far top one or two of that list. So yeah,
let's talk about that confessional you have of Maddie, where like, I know her for some reason. Mannerisms, there's just something I can't pinpoint.
I don't know what it was, but I was like, we were in, I think it was after the second challenge where I get nominated and accepted it because I wanted it. And then Maddie's like, I'll do it. And I was like, okay, obviously Maddie wants to talk to me. So before we even got in the room, I'm like, this is perfect. Because 2 seconds ago, I said, or half hour ago, I said, I want an all girls alliance with me in it. Right. I want to work with the women. And then I also kind of, I kind of threw a lie out there that, I don't like what I'm hearing, because I went into a room with Matt and John and they didn't give me a name. And they might've said like maybe a woman or something at one point, but it wasn't like concrete until I left. And then they said Alanis after I left. But I just threw it out there. I don't really like what I'm feeling or hearing, and I want to vote with you guys. And then Matt in the first vote actually voted for, I think, Alanis, right? In the first vote. So it's almost like Matt's vote, even though it was more of a throwaway, backed up my lie, because he said, I think they're going against the women. And then a woman got a vote. So immediately after that, Maddie's like, I want to work with this guy. And I don't know. I was happy about that.
Yeah, it seems like you guys really wanted to work together, just the wheel.
But it wasn't John. Back to the mannerism. Sorry, I kind of skimmed over
really?
that.
It wasn't
like,
John.
It wasn't. You know what's funny? It's probably John's mannerisms that I recognized, but I couldn't pinpoint it. So it wasn't like I knew it was John, right? Or I would have said that in the confessional for sure. But I was like, man, I know I've spoken to somebody who's like, you're related. I knew it in my mind. I don't know if you ever get that. Like you meet someone, you're like, man, you remind me of somebody. And anyways, turns out that it was one of the hosts of the season. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So we go through that challenge. You guys pick out perfectly, you win. And then the next people are asked to go on an adventure and you don't volunteer. Why was that?
Well, again, I was just trying to work with the women, and Alanis wasn't really saying anything at that point. So I was like, she's unlikely to speak up and say, I'll go. And Maddie, after having had spoken with her, I know Maddie wants to work with me. So I was like, if I just sit here, Maddie might just watch me and not leave. And that's all I was hoping for, was I'm just going to sit here and hope Maddie just does the same. And then Alanis kind of came on for the ride at the same time, because just kind of sat there a little bit more passively at that point. I don't know if Alanis had intent there or not. Maybe I missed that in confessionals, but Maddie and I definitely were on the same page to don't stand up, stay here.
Yeah, she had said the same in her exit interview. So good validation that you guys were both on the same thinking process. And then your tribe goes to a vote. It's split, half your original tribe, half the newbies from the other tribe. And it's kind of, there's 4 women, 2 guys, you and Sean. And there's this talk of a fake women's alliance to get you or Sean out from both sides. Were you ever nervous that you were going to go?
Yes. No, that right there, I knew that was the beginning of the end for me, was that vote. Because when we first got together, we being me, Maddie, and Alanis, we said, okay, we need to vote somebody out. Sean, I watched his exit and I get it. But man, he looked like he knew more than he did. And anyway, so I wanted to go for Sean initially until it clicked. I was like, oh crap, then I would be 4 women and just me. And I'm outnumbered at that point if it goes to another vote, because I haven't really voted with Maddie and Alanis much at that point. The game is still young. So I said, okay, let's try to pin it on one of the women. You guys go and pretend to work with them in an alliance just to find out where they're voting. And when Sean came and sat with me, he was just if you ever want to see somebody trying to tell the truth, like pretend, like lie, trying to lie and do a horrible job at it, that's the moment to watch right there, because he's just, it is so obvious that I'm the vote when I'm talking to him. He's just trying to get me to waste it on someone so they can get a 3-2-1 victory on the vote. So when Maddie and Alanis came back, I told them, I kind of spun a lie. And I said, Sean just told me that the women were going to pretend to bond with you and pretend to make an all girls alliance. But really, he just told me that was their ploy and we're all going to vote for Maddie, but I'm not doing that. And that's not at all really what happened. Sean never said it's all a ploy. We're going to lie to them and all this stuff. But my objective in that was to make it so that Maddie would get paranoid, not trust the girls that she just spoke with. And that when I yelled out, F them, let's stay loyal, I'm going to F and rocks, it sounded like I was doing that for Maddie.
You're doing it to save your own ass.
But I was just trying to convince them to do it for me.
Yeah,
and I didn't know if it worked until the vote came out, and I was like, oh, thank God.
We watch it 100% work out, right?
Yeah, that was probably my favorite move of the season, was just because I knew I was on the block, and Maddie and Alanis might not have voted that way, right? If it went to rocks anyway, that might have been the case. But I had to make sure that was the case, because I didn't have the time to spin it on another name.
Yeah. And it works out really well. It seems like throughout this game, you really have a good grasp on how to spin it your way. And so you win the next immunity, you kind of fly under the radar. And then the next one, which is when essentially you get voted out, we start to hear your name. But what I want to ask is, you said, I'm not hearing, no one's giving me a name, no one's giving me a name. Then we see you in a room with a couple people, and Alanis is like, let's all work together, but I want to get out Michael. And Jordyn
or John.
says,
John was mentioned at one point as well.
Right. So Jordyn's like, I don't want to get out somebody from my tribe. Let's go for John. And Alanis is not down for this. She is like, no, I think we need to do Michael. And I feel like that is the point where they decided it's Robbie. It was either whoever you four could decide on or you. And because it felt like you guys weren't budging, you almost like you were the default. Do you feel like you were bound to go regardless?
Well, I feel if you want to kind of picture my motivations at that point, or my mindset, I guess, is the fact that when you watch it back as an audience member now, you see Jordyn go into a confessional multiple times and nobody is coming after Jordyn. Nobody. Okay. At that point anyway. And Jordyn is convinced that she's going, or that the vote, there's a movement against her, right? So when you have somebody who's basing all their actions off of that, it just doesn't add up when you're watching what they're saying and you're watching what they're doing and how loyal they instantly are to you and how much they instantly want to work with you, even though you literally just lied to them like 2 votes ago on the wheel and tried to get one of them out. And I'm like, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And if there was one misread that I had, it was not realizing how desperate Jordyn was, because she only showed that to me really in the confessionals that I see now. To, I think, her closer allies, she said, I feel like it might be me and stuff like that. But I didn't believe that whatsoever, because for me and Alanis, we were on the swap tribe 3v3 and we lost the wheel. Right. So now we're 2v3 in theory, me and Alanis versus the 3 remaining. And then we merge. And the problem with the merge is that everybody else on the other tribe has already flipped and coalesced. So the 2 of us came over. The 3 previous, was it, oh my God, I'm forgetting tribe names. Damu?
Damu, yeah.
Okay. I'm proud of myself. I remember that. Okay.
There we go.
So
you're better than a lot.
The original 3 Damu come over, and now they're kind of in the mix with the people that they used to work with, plus the new voting blocks. And we just lied to them. And they were already telling everybody, Robbie's a master manipulator. The girls lied to our faces. We never saw it coming. And in a game that's this fast paced, that's all you need. You need that 30 seconds of, you can't trust that guy. Let's all work together. He's a liar. And once that was said, whoever said it, I think Jordyn actually might've been the one that said it, which is kind of ironic because we ended up almost working together. You know, once that is said, it's extremely difficult to move enough numbers after that point, because you have realistically 15 minutes, right? I know when you watch the episodes, it looks like we have an hour or a day to do it, but you have the challenge, and after the challenge, you have a social round that might be, you know, ballpark in 15 minutes, and you have to get the right people in the right room at the right time. And it's just another example of the pace of a mini and why they're so difficult to navigate, right? Depending on how the wheel turned out, depending on how the swap turned out, all those woulda, couldas, and they add up. So it makes it tricky.
100%. It is all about the timing for sure. I just have my one question at the end. If we have Facebook questions,
we do have some Facebook questions for Robbie. So our first one is from JM. You played such a great game. I do think knowing production put a target on you, which, like, I don't think it should, but hence why I didn't mention it in my season, because he played in Irariki, the last one. Why did you target my boy? And I believe he's referencing Michael, which I don't think you really targeted him. That's just who Alanis was like, hey, Michael.
No, honestly, it's funny because coming into the game, well, first of all, thank you for saying that you enjoyed my game. I appreciate it. I tried to be entertaining. The second part of it was about the production side. I was in a room at one point and I entered out of a confessional. So I finished my confessional. I joined the room where everybody was sitting. And as I entered, they said, like, I think they said, like, oh, look, now we have 2 engineers in the room. And I have a background in engineering. And I'm like, I don't know. How do you know anything about me? So if you know what profession I'm in, then the odds are, if you Google me or you look me up on Facebook or whatever, you might have seen me on some of these videos, right? You might have seen me in these groups. You might have. So there was no point in me trying to lie about it, because if they knew what I did for a living, then they probably saw me around the community at some point.
Yeah.
So I just said, yeah, you know, I did a couple of recaps and I kind of summed it up like that. I didn't play it up like, yeah, it was multiple seasons every couple of days, watched every episode multiple times, analyze. No, I just said, yeah, you know, a couple of parts, and then the room goes quiet and it's like, oh, like,
whoa,
right, just like that, and you're like, okay, well, that's not a good sign. But no, and I never targeted Michael. I knew that it was going to be likely Alanis or myself. At one point, I kind of floated the idea that I might have something to play. I even said, you guys should probably give me a name, because I'm going to put my vote on somebody. And if I get creative and pull something out, then somebody else is going home. So at least tell me like a backup name.
At least lie to me.
Right. At least lie to me. But the names that we had coming out were a lot of, what are you hearing? And then Alanis would speak, and Alanis would say Michael or John. And I think, I think Jordyn threw John out there. Right. But once again, I had zero reason to trust Jordyn at the time. Right.
Yeah.
So her throwing John out just felt like, okay, she's working with Michael, not working with me. That's her old tribe mate. Like, there was no value there in my mind. Right. Completely wrong in hindsight, because obviously she wanted to and did vote in our way. But no, I felt the writing was on the wall, and I had a choice to either go with some huge lie and just blatantly say, I've got an idol. I'm not going anywhere. I hope you guys have a backup plan, because my vote is going on one of you three, and do something like that and get really kind of blow it up. But then I feel like Alanis would have went, and then I would have went next anyway. Right. And if I could blow up Alanis's game and make it to the final 3, right, final tribal, sure. But if I'm going to blow up my allies game make it to final 8, there's no value in that. Right. And I said right at the beginning of this, I wanted to have fun, and I feel like I was having a lot of fun. I felt like at that point I was 7 hours of having fun. I didn't feel like burning allies to make it another 40 minutes at that. It wasn't the way I play. So
yeah. Our next question comes from Brett. He's known to speak his mind and be a little spicy. So did you think you played a good game? I personally think you did. I personally don't think you did with the unnecessary lying, heart. So
Sure.
he buffered
Unnecessary
it with the heart.
lying. That's
That is
no,
third kid.
yeah, no, here's the thing though, right? That's a really good point. And I know it's kind of meant to be kind of whatever. It almost feels like it's trying to be adversarial or confrontational in some way. I don't take it that way at all. It's a good question. I feel like there's a misconception with a lot of people when they play minis. Long games, not so much, but I feel like with minis where it's taken very seriously. People take the mini as if, okay, I'm playing Survivor right now. How would I get to the end and win? And the easiest way is to have a blank background with no lighting, mostly beige walls, which is what 99% of people have, like that, whatever, off-white of some sort, and do the Dan style where you just sit and you just don't talk, and you're not floating. When you get with your allies, you say what you want to do, and then you just sit quietly the whole time. And I feel like that's almost a wasted opportunity. And I feel like I wanted to use this mini as an opportunity to try different lies and different strategies as an experiment, almost, to see what would people buy, what would they believe, what would they not? Because when I do play a game that actually is for money or for, a long game, right? A long game I feel is way more important because it's a 38-day, 39-day, whatever the mini format is. I feel like there's a lot more investment in that with time and energy and money and whatnot. I wanted to use this as almost like a petri dish. So when I was mid-sentence and someone was like, hey, tell me about yourself. And I said, oh yeah, I got a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 7-year-old. I made that up on the spot. And I wanted to try stuff like that. And people bought it and it worked. So now in my repertoire, I have that where I know, okay, I can do that and it works. Right. Mm-hmm. I can't talk about being on production as if that's not a problem. I can't talk about having a background in engineering, which I don't know why that really mattered. I can't make an all girls alliance with me in it, but it was fun to try. So I don't feel like I played a bad game. I feel like I played the game I wanted to play and it was a success. And I feel like I learned everything I wanted to learn from it. I know how far I can go playing that style. That was a success. And I know that if I want to go further, then I either have to be even more aggressive or dial it 99% back.
Right.
So no, I don't think I played a bad game. I played the game that I wanted to play. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Eric says, Robbie, you played very hard and definitely had a major impact on the season. Crazy that you were a last minute addition. I had no idea that you knew production, let alone Survivor. So good covering that up. I'm curious, who were you genuinely feeling most threatened by in the last round? You seemed pretty set that you were going into the round you needed to win immunity challenge or you were in danger. Was it because you got some votes earlier, or do you think it's because other people were able to see your strategic gameplay?
I think because there's a couple questions there. I suppose who did I think was the biggest threat? At that point, I thought that's a good question. I think Kylie at that point was really underrated. Because of the connections that Kylie was able to make and the votes, right? Because I wasn't there for the votes that they survived and worked together with. And Jon, I wasn't afraid that Jon, at the time, I wasn't thinking Jon would dominate the game, but I thought Jon would recognize that he's also a high energy player. I'm a high energy player. And a lot of times those don't mesh. So I'd probably say Jon would be probably the biggest threat to my game at that point, but I thought Kylie would have a solid chance of making the social bonds to get far.
Awesome. From Anthony, who you played with, did Madeline know about your connection with Alanis? She seemed very loyal to you, but not so much to Alanis. I'm just wondering if she knew what that would have helped to solidify a final 3 relationship, or did you not tell her thinking it might hurt your closeness in the game? Also, I knew Alanis really thought you were safe and Michael was going. Did you feel that way too, or did you realize Michael vote was not gaining momentum?
Yeah, I mean, the first point about the Maddie and whether I'd spill the beans, I'm playing that up like we have some big connection with me and Alanis. I haven't spoken to her since, by the way. Like if literally, if I opened Messenger, it would say, you're not friends with this person. Like they need to accept your message. Like we've never spoken online or anywhere else. So, with Alanis, not Maddie. I don't know if I said Maddie there, but no, I didn't tell Maddie that I knew who Alanis was. And, I don't think it would have helped or hurt really. I honestly, my number one was Maddie.
Yeah.
And at that point, having Alanis there, the only thing I could think of is if there's ever a 50-50, then her knowing that I'm a strategic player is either going to hurt me really bad, or her knowing that I was really loyal to her father when we played might help me, but I didn't know which, and we never really spoke about it. So I kind of just kept my distance from Alanis when it came to having her in the room with me and Maddie and be open with Maddie about having known who she was. So no, I didn't want to spill any beans about that.
Yeah. From Alanis, I'm so happy I got to play with you, Robbie. Even though I wish our alliance went further, the rest of the tribe was very smart to take you out. I understand everything is in hindsight, but if you 100% knew our original tribe was voting you out, would you have tried to change the vote to a bigger and more obvious threat at that point in the game, like Danny or Jon?
Yeah, watching it back, I didn't think I had any moves left that weren't just going to be absurd. Like you can always try, right? And like I said, if this was, and I don't mean to downplay it, because you have way more fun in a mini, way faster than you do in a long game. You stress out way more in a long game, in my opinion. They're fun to play and they're worth it, and I think everybody should play them because it's an amazing experience. But there's fun is just condensed in a mini. But no, I feel like if I tried too hard there, it would have went from having fun to being too serious. The one move I could have made in hindsight was I should have pulled Michael into a room, and I should have said that you flipped on them. They're telling you it's me. Did the whole same thing I did with Maddie and Alanis, and said, they're telling you it's me. It's not. They all want to vote you. We need to vote for whoever's running the show over there. And knowing that Michael is a flipper, that could have worked. But like I said, trying to get people in a room at the right time, you can't really invite people without other people coming. And at that point, people were also shadowing, right? So if you'd see somebody go to a room, somebody else would jump in to make sure that they weren't getting pulled and manipulated. It's kind of like following them around on the beach, right? The buddy system. All right. So
for sure.
But no, I think that was probably the move I should have made if I really wanted to mix it up a little bit. And, but like I said, it's easy to look back in hindsight, but you have 15 minutes or 20 minutes in real time. So no, and I almost just won and I was exhausted. I don't know if you could tell. I was drenched after doing that challenge.
Well, you did it in a sweatshirt.
Yeah, I was wearing a sweater the whole time. Yeah. And man, I was just drenched and exhausted. It was a lot harder than it looked in that episode to just hold your arms up balancing. And I was actually joking with somebody who wrote me about that. You see, I wish I had the cups here. You see, it almost looks like I'm cheating in that challenge because
we had to zoom in while filming, and we're like, no, I think he's good. I think he's good because
and I didn't even have my headphones in at the time, right? So we couldn't even communicate. If you guys were trying to call me out, you would have to hold up a sign or something. But no, so when we were setting up, I couldn't even lift the cups up to get into position before you counted us in with the balls. They kept falling off, kind of like how Michael couldn't get into position, right? So I put my fingers on top of the balls. I got ready, and then I put my finger straight up in the air and let go of everything. And then when you counted us in, I was already letting go, and they were balanced. So I just did that to get into position before the challenge started. But watching it back, you can't tell depth, right? And I was like, man, it looks like I'm just holding the freaking ball on the top. And I'm almost happy I didn't win, because if I would have won that, it would have been like, oh, look, he's freaking,
cheating.
Yeah. But no, when I lost, I'm like, there, everybody who thinks I'm cheating, I would have won if I was cheating.
Yeah. We made sure on production to pin you and see if you had your fingers on the ping pong balls, but you were okay.
No. It looks bad, though, I'll admit. And being somebody who watches a lot of these, I would be like the Leonardo DiCaprio gif.
Yeah, exactly.
Look right there.
Well, we always like to end our exits with the same question, and that is, If you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
I knew you were going to ask that. Shows how much I prepared. I say educational. I say educational. I was able to try the strategies that I wanted to learn what would work and what wouldn't. And yeah, no, I got a lot out of it. So I'd say educational. It's I don't know. It's things that I'll apply in future games. So
yeah,
that's
awesome.
great. Well, it was a pleasure having you here this exit interview, but we are not done with you just yet. We'll see you back for final tribal council because you are our second juror. And for everyone watching, if you want to see secret scenes of stuff that is not included in the episodes, you can head over to our Instagram and our TikTok at DCP_org. Otherwise, follow us on Facebook. That's where you can ask all these questions to our lovely guests on these exit interviews. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.